everybody. Welcome to Scott Fox After 9. Brand new edition ready to go, and today is going to be a lot of follow-up on yesterday. Yesterday, talked a lot about the conflict between the USA and Iran and Israel and Iran, and since that episode came out, a ceasefire has been announced. And the ceasefire has already been broken. And President Trump was talking about it today, and he had some interesting words to say about it. By interesting, I mean profane. I'm going to get to that coming up. First off, a big welcome to the great Anna Almeida.
Hey.
How are you?
I'm good. I'm happy to be back.
Are you following this conflict between the U.S. and Iran?
Yes, I am. I've been concerned, to be honest. I'm so scared, like many, that it would lead to a third world war. But so far, it's under wraps.
It did seem like cooler heads would prevail. Here's the story from the Associated Press. A lot of developments have taken place over the last few hours between Israel and Iran. Both countries, a short time ago, accepted a ceasefire proposed by U.S. President Donald Trump to end the 12-day war that roiled the Middle East and set back Iran's nuclear program. News of the deal comes after Tehran launched a retaliatory limited missile attack on a U.S. military base in Qatar yesterday. And the U.S. said that came with much warning and caused no injuries and very little damage. Acceptance of a ceasefire came after Tehran had launched a final onslaught of missiles targeting Israel that killed at least 4 people early today, while Israel launched a blitz of airstrikes targeting sites across Iran before dawn. The president actually tweeted while Israeli planes were in the air, telling Israel to send those planes back and do not drop any more bombs. But I understand why Israel would want to bomb Iran, because Iran bombed Israel.
Yeah.
We're supposed to be under a ceasefire here. Let me ask you, Anna, in your heart of hearts, do you think this ceasefire is going to hold up?
No.
I think it will.
You do? I hope you're right, Scott. You know
this
what?
one I believe.
Okay, I felt optimistic, and then it was broken so quickly that now I don't know, who's going to make the first move. It's just waiting to see who's going to teeter and go for it, honestly.
I think the big question is who's running Iran right now? Who's in charge in Iran? Because we don't seem to know. We haven't heard from some of their leaders in a long time. We know a lot of their military generals got taken out in the initial strikes by Israel. I'm not sure who's calling the shots there or who has the authority to agree to a ceasefire. Clearly, somebody didn't get the memo. Or this is a bunch of posturing because everybody wants to be able to say they got the last shot off.
That's what I think it is. They want to be the one that said, hey, no, I was the last one. We did what we said we were going to do, and now we can cease fire. But does that ever get you anywhere, really?
I mean, ceasefires are effective. I mean, they should work. This was negotiated. Trump had the cards, and he forced everybody to the table, and he told Israel, I'll make sure Iran behaves themselves, but you guys got to knock it off too. And he had a deal. I don't know why Iran fired those missiles at Israel. I don't blame Israel for firing back if they got fired upon. We're under a ceasefire. Now what's got to happen is cooler heads have got to prevail. And I'm going to go out on a limb here and suggest President Trump has had enough of the BS.
Yeah.
Let me play a little bit for you of what the president had to say this morning before he departed for the NATO summit.
The region suggests that the sides accuse each other for violating the ceasefire. So
I think they both violated it. I'm not sure they did it intentionally. They couldn't rein people back. I don't like the fact that Israel went out this morning at all, and I'm going to see if I can stop it. So as soon as I get away from you, I'm going to see if I can stop it, okay?
Have you spoken to him this morning? How confident are you that Iran is going to take the I
think it's been completely demolished. I think the reason we're here is because those pilots, those B-2 pilots, did an unbelievable job. And the fake news, like CNN in particular, they're trying to say, well, I agree that it was destroyed, but maybe not that destroyed. You know what they're doing? They're really hurting great pilots that put their lives in the line. CNN is scum, and so is MSDNC. They're all, and frankly, the networks aren't much better. It's all fake news, but they should not have done that. Those pilots hit their targets. Those targets were obliterated, and the pilots should be given credit. They're not after the pilots, they're after me. They want to try and demean.
Let me pause that right there because I think, Anna, there's a lot of truth to what the president said. And we saw it here in Canada during the election. The media has an agenda. The media will skew everything they possibly can. And the media isn't even balanced about it. Let me give you an example. There's criticism of Donald Trump for launching that strike on Iran without getting congressional approval. Well, I don't know how you expect to have secrecy and stealth if you have to go and ask Congress and debate it, get approval and a proclamation, and then launch the bombs. Everybody knows it's coming then. I don't think he needed it. Personally, I think he was acting proactively in the defense of America. And this isn't me defending Donald Trump. I would say the same thing, and I did, about Barack Obama, who launched thousands of missiles in multiple airstrikes without congressional approval. And CNN certainly wasn't demanding congressional approval when Obama did it.
No.
They're after Trump. They're not just after Trump. That's not accurate. They're after conservatives. They've been after conservatives for a long time. They want to cancel conservatives that they don't like or that are too popular. They've done it to Trump. They did it to Pierre Poilievre. They've done it to influencers. They've done it to right-wing media figures. They'll probably do it to me at some point. They don't like successful conservatives. And Donald Trump is very successful right now. He's riding high in the polls. America seems to approve of what he's done. Right or wrong, the American people believe in it. And Donald Trump is quite right to call out CNN because their coverage this week, it's like they're constantly looking for mistakes. They will throw their own pilots under the bus to try and get an attack in on Donald Trump. And it's disgusting.
I just feel, he's very outspoken. People put him in office for a reason. I don't think that he had to get that permission to get that job done. I would have, if I was in his position, and like others, like you mentioned, like Barack, they were applauded, and he got what he wanted to do. He got it done, and it safely as well. Those pilots all came back.
Without even a shot fired at them.
Yeah, that's the thing. I was shocked when I heard about it. I couldn't believe that he managed to get this done, to be honest. I'm not a fan of him, but if this just de-escalated what could potentially be a third world war, I'm okay with it.
I'm going to keep going down this road. I mean, initially I planned on doing a couple other stories today, but I feel like this is another important one. We're going to talk Donald Trump in this episode, and we're going to talk about what Prime Minister Carney promised the Europeans yesterday.
Ooh.
First off, a little bit more of President Trump. I apologize for the audio quality. This guy is just driving me crazy. Why does he insist on doing news scrums outside a goddamn helicopter? Why? I don't understand. He's got endless media resources. He doesn't need to stand on the lawn in front of a helicopter. Unless he's doing that on purpose.
It's just who he is.
Here's a little bit more of President Trump earlier this morning.
Nuclear program? Iran will never rebuild its nuclear. From there? Absolutely not. That place is under rock. That place is demolished. The B-2 pilots did their job. They did it better than anybody could even imagine. They hit late in the evening. It was dark with no moon, and they hit that target with every one of those things, and that place is gone. But when I see CNN all night long, they're trying to say, well, maybe it wasn't really as demolished as we thought. It was demolished. You take a look at the pinpricks, and you see that place is gone. And I will say, I think CNN ought to apologize to the pilots of the B-2s. I think that MSDNC ought to apologize. I think these guys really, these networks and these cable networks are real losers. You really are. You're real losers.
Israel says that they violated the peace.
You're gutless losers. I say that to CNN because I watch it. I have no choice. I got to watch that garbage. It's all garbage. It's all fake news. But I think CNN is a gutless group of people. And the people that run it, nobody even knows it's been sold so many times. But the people that run it ought to be ashamed. MSDNC, a guy named Brian Roberts, he heads it. He's a disgrace. He's a weak, pathetic disgrace.
Israel says that Iran violated the peace agreement, the ceasefire agreement. Do you believe that Iran is still committed to peace?
Yeah, I do. They violated it, but Israel violated it too.
Are you questioning if Israel is committed?
Israel, as soon as we made the deal, they came out and they dropped a load of bombs, the likes of which I've never seen before. The biggest load that we've seen. I'm not happy with Israel. You know, when I say, okay, now you have 12 hours, you don't go out in the first hour and just drop everything you have on them. So I'm not happy with them. I'm not happy with Iran either. But I'm really unhappy if Israel's going out this morning because the one rocket that didn't land, that was shot, perhaps by mistake, that didn't land, I'm not happy about that. You know what? We basically have two countries that have been fighting so long and so hard that they don't know what the fuck they're doing. Do you understand that?
And that was the end of that.
Yeah.
They don't know what the F they're doing. They've been fighting so long, they don't even remember what the conflict is anymore. Is there any possibility that that could be true? Because you know what?
Yeah.
I've been involved in... Ever go years without talking to somebody and you were pissed off about them, something they did or something they said, you were angry and you thought that's the end of that friendship. Maybe you run into them at the grocery store or at the mall or something like that, years down the line. It's almost hard to remember why you were mad in the first place.
Or it doesn't even matter anymore, but yet you still have to hold your ground. And it sounds like, President Trump, that's what he was trying to push at.
It's got to end. We need to de-escalate. We need no more death. We need no more war. We need to end this and move on for the peace and prosperity of the Middle East and of the world. End of story. If Donald Trump can get it done, I will give Donald Trump all the credit in the world. I've got serious disagreements with him, particularly on domestic issues, and I did not approve of him bombing Iran. I thought this was a terrible idea. But at some point, you got to admit if you're wrong, and it appears he at least did have them agree to a ceasefire. Now, if one of them broke it already, clearly that's because they don't fear consequences. Maybe President Trump needs to show that there is consequences for breaking it. I don't know. I don't know what he's going to do next, but he's got a long flight over to Europe for the NATO summit, and he's going to think about it, and he's going to talk to generals. No doubt on that flight, he's going to be on the phone with the Prime Minister of Qatar, who helped negotiate this deal, by the way, and with the Prime Minister of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu. I don't know if anybody in Iran is taking President Trump's calls because I don't know who's running Iran right now. And that should be a concern to everybody as well. But the sense of fear and anxiety that I had yesterday recording this episode, worried about World War III. At the moment, I feel much better that we're not going down that road.
Well, I'm thankful you feel better. Because once I heard about the bombing again during the ceasefire, I wrote you right away, and you calmed my nerves. Can I ask you, what is it about Trump that they will take his calls and not take the calls of other people? Is it because of the force of the military behind him?
He's the most powerful man in the world. President of the United States always has been. I mean, that's our perception.
Yeah,
maybe on the other side of the world, they think the leader of China is the most powerful man in the world. I don't know. But as far as we're concerned, as North Americans, that's the top of the food chain.
Okay.
And clearly they have a military that's dominant. Iran is a formidable opponent. They've got a good military. They're coordinated. They've got their stuff together. Trump walked in and they didn't even see it coming.
Yes.
You got to give him credit, or his generals credit, for planning something like that. I don't want to stoke the fear, but I am going to remind everybody what I reminded everyone of yesterday. If you see something, say something. There's a lot of people that are very afraid that Iran is activating sleeper cells that are currently in North America. They would be activated to take out terrorist attacks. I don't want that to happen either. I just want peace. When can we put all this nonsense behind us and just move on to try and get to a place where the middle class worldwide is prosperous and thriving? Unless that's what they don't want.
Probably. How do you stay in power? How do you inflict fear? You have to, you got to show up in a way that people would be afraid of you and continue on with what you're doing. I don't know. To me, I'm on that boat. I'm still nervous. I hope the ceasefire sticks. And I'm not a fan of Donald Trump, but if he can do this, then kudos. You go try it, my friend. He's not my friend, but you know what I mean.
Another perspective here is White House Press Secretary Carolyn Leavitt talking yesterday to Fox News.
The president is pleased, the country is pleased, and frankly, Brian, the whole world should be pleased with the courageous action that President Trump and our United States military took on Saturday night. I want to thank, and the president wants to thank, the brave pilots who flew nearly 40 hours and more than 7,000 miles from the middle of America to the Middle East to conduct this highly successful and complex precision strikes on Iran's nuclear facilities. This is an operation that presidents of the past have dreamed about, but no president had the guts to actually do it. But President Trump did, to take away this imminent threat, not just to the state of Israel, but to the United States and the rest of the world. So the country is a safer place today because of the president's bold action, and he has prevented a nuclear conflict. He has prevented a rogue radical regime from obtaining a nuclear bomb and threatening our people.
Is that the way you see things? Do you think he averted a potential war? Because if Iran had a nuclear weapon and they used it, and a lot of people think they would have.
I agree.
They think they were close, and whether they put it on a missile and aimed it at Israel or they sent it out in a backpack with some terror group that they work with, a lot of people think they would have used it. Whoever drops the first nuke is going to start World War III because the rest of the world will not put up with it.
I agree. I think he did and saw the bigger picture. And I hate to agree with Trump just for my own personal reasons.
Sucks.
I hate it so much. I'm happy you feel the same way. But honestly, did he do the right thing? Probably. And he usually doesn't always do the right thing. But for this case, I think he saw the big picture. He put people in line to get her done, and he did. And thank goodness it was the nuclear site that he destroyed. It wasn't like he was bombing a community. You know, he saw the bigger picture. And those people, those pilots, like, kudos to them. I could only imagine they knew they may not be coming home, and they went anyways. So anyhow,
that's their job.
I know it's just scary regardless. But yeah, whoever drops that first nuke, I'm so scared. So if they don't have nukes, good.
They might.
Who knows?
We don't know if they do or don't. And you know what? I mean, there's other countries out there that are considered bad actors that may have them that don't necessarily have bad relations with Iran. Yeah, I'm looking at North Korea.
Yes.
And countries like that. They have nuclear weapons. And what's to stop them from just giving Iran a nuclear weapon? I don't think they're going to do that. I really don't think the world order as it currently is going to go up against Trump. They know he's done it. They know he's got the balls to do it. And I don't think they think he won't do it again.
Yeah, I think you're right. Had it been somebody else potentially in office, I don't think they would be picking up the calls as quickly as they pick up his calls and hear him out. That's for sure. I mean, to have a ceasefire and that he kind of brought together. Yeah, his colorful language, I understand, because you could hear the frustration. But I also think that's the frustration of the world also watching in and being like, what the hell happened here? Like, you know what I mean? There's
a lot of pressure on Trump.
Yeah.
He said he would deliver peace. He decided to try and deliver peace through strength, taking out those nuclear sites. He did his job. He got a deal done. And then they violated it within hours. So hopefully that's the end of it.
Yeah, he doesn't want to be made a fool.
Trump has got to tamp this down. And no, I don't think he's going to tolerate being made a fool of. I just don't think he's going to do that. So I have a feeling this is coming to an end one way or the other. And I'm not as worried about World War III now, but I am still very much worried about the domestic threat. And again, if you see something suspicious, say something. You can phone police. There's an RCMP hotline that you can call. There's so many different places that you can put those tips out. Hell, even call Crime Stoppers, 1-800-222-TIPS. Say something if you see something that looks out of the ordinary. Oof. One more angle on this before I move on to Prime Minister Carney over in Europe.
Oh.
Yeah, that's how I feel. Oh, Jesus.
I'm sorry.
You know, people are going to regret this election real soon, Anna. They really are. But I'll get to that in a sec.
Okay.
One more angle on the Trump thing. Is it possible that this was all an act, that this was all staged? Is it possible, since we now know Iran gave Qatar and the U.S. a heads up that they were going to be firing missiles at that U.S. base yesterday? Is it possible that the U.S. told Iran, we're going to have to strike you, but the damage will be minimal? Is it possible that it works both ways? The U.S. was very quick to announce Iran gave them a heads up. They didn't want civilian casualties. They needed to respond yesterday and attack that U.S. base on principle. You attacked us, we have to attack you. And they fired the exact same number of missiles and bombs at that U.S. base as the U.S. fired at that nuclear facility. If it's going one way, a heads up so nobody gets hurt, isn't it reasonable to assume it could be going the other way too? Donald Trump likes getting a win. Donald Trump likes winning in the media and in the public perception. Is it possible he just needed to flex his muscle a little bit for whatever reason? And that all of this isn't quite as it's being presented to us. All of this is a show. Is it possible that this peace deal has actually been worked out for a while, but they needed to send a message? I don't know that for sure. I know there's speculation about it on the internet, and if you want to buy into that, that's totally up to you. I don't think I believe that. I don't think that Iran knew that attack was coming. I think they woke up just as shocked as everybody else did. But that's something that people are discussing. Now let's go over to Europe. Prime Minister Mark Carney is moving on from the EU-Canada summit in Belgium. Today, he will begin a 2-day stop in the Netherlands for NATO meetings. Members of the military alliance are gathering in The Hague, where they'll discuss whether to more than double their defense spending target to 5% of GDP and what a feasible time frame might be. Main talks won't happen until tomorrow, Wednesday. Carney is going to be taking part today in bilateral meetings focused on the Arctic and transatlantic security. He will also meet with the King of the Netherlands and a few other EU officials. I'm just going to be honest with people.
Could you?
And I'm going to be honest with you too.
Yeah.
And I don't want to sound like a conspiracy theorist, and I don't want this to sound like sour grapes. I just want to apply a little bit of common sense. The circumstances that we found ourselves in when Mark Carney got elected, think back, because they're hoping you'll forget. The way he became leader of the Liberal Party out of nowhere, out of total obscurity, pretending that he wasn't involved, he wasn't a politician. The election itself was a little bit weird. There were a lot of anomalies in that. The fact that they cut Ruby Dalla out of it and all her supporters were apparently gone. The lack of votes in certain areas. It was very suspicious that Mark Carney, out of nowhere, managed to completely unseat a few other prominent cabinet ministers to become leader of the Liberals. We all know there was some anomalies with the election as well, particularly in Pierre Poilievre's riding. I don't believe those results. I don't. Something suspicious went on, and I have no proof. This is just me giving you my gut feeling. My gut feeling is something sinister went on, and there's a reason that the powers that be wanted Mark Carney to be Prime Minister of Canada at this moment in time. Mark Carney, and it's not a conspiracy theory, please feel free to check my work on this, a well-known, prominent executive with the World Economic Forum. We all know the World Economic Forum has very, very specific plans for planet Earth. They believe in a one world government. They're globalists. They like control, and they don't have a lot of time for the middle class. This is a group that, in some aspects, believes in depopulation. They think the Earth is overpopulated and the world could thrive if we could get rid of some people. A whole bunch of different conspiracy theories converge after where I just left off. And I'm not going to go down the rabbit hole. You're welcome to if you want to. I'm just going to point out the obvious and indisputable. Yes, Mark Carney had serious ties to the World Economic Forum. Yes, he has still failed to disclose all of his conflicts right now. We don't even know what his conflicts are. We were supposed to know that. He became leader of the Liberals under somewhat suspicious circumstances, and he became prime minister under a somewhat suspicious election. Why is that? He told us it was because he was the only one who could negotiate with Donald Trump. Well, now it seems that negotiations with Donald Trump are not going very well. So yesterday, he decided, okay, I'm going to do what I intended to do in the first place. I'm going to align Canada with Europe, and we will no longer be the partner and best friend of America like we were. And he's saying Donald Trump did that because of tariffs. Not necessarily, because the tariffs come to an end when we come to a better deal. Mm-hmm. Us jumping ship over to Europe isn't a requirement, but it's something that some really want done. The globalists who reside in Europe still want that one world government. They can't control America at the moment, but they've got Mark Carney controlling Canada. And again, I know this sounds really weird. Scott, don't go down that road. It sounds weird. I don't believe that. This is the conspiracy theory stuff that the news told me not to believe. Don't do it, Scott. Don't do it.
Oh, but it's so hard not to take in.
But I won't do it. I won't. I'm going to let Mark Carney do it. I just set the table for you. Now you eat. Yesterday, Mark Carney made what I consider his most important foreign policy speech yet. He was meeting with the president of the European Union, and he laid out his plans for Canada to join the New World Order. The New World Order. Did you vote for a New World Order? I didn't.
Oh, gosh.
I don't think most Canadians even had this on their radar, but I'm going to speculate that this has been in the plans for a very long time. Listen to Prime Minister Carney. Again, don't take it from me. Don't get crazy with those conspiracy theories, Scott. Give me some evidence. Here's all you need.
Hello. So we're meeting now in that context in, as you just said, in hard times. We might say even a hinge moment of history, a world that's more dangerous and divided, a time where the rules-based international, the global order, rules-based global order is under threat in a time when technological change is accelerating. And we really have two choices as a jurisdiction, as a country in this circumstance. We can nostalgically look back and long for the old order to somehow return, or we can build a new one with purpose and partnership. And as the most European of the non-European countries, Canada looks first to the European Union to build a better world.
Did everybody hear that? If you didn't, just back it up. Hit that back 10 seconds button a couple of times. Listen to that again.
As a jurisdiction, as a country in this circumstance, we can nostalgically look back and long for the old order to somehow return, or we can build a new one with purpose and partnership. Canada looks first to the European Union to build a better world.
Oh my gosh, I'm twitching.
Most people are, because this is the thing, right? They don't show you that on the news. You didn't see that last night on The National. You didn't see that last night with Omar on the CTV National News. That's not what they cover. They don't want people to know this is going on. They always tell you what they're doing, but the news doesn't necessarily cover it because they know it'll be controversial. What is Mark Carney committing us to? He signed something yesterday to better align us with Europe. He said we're the most European of the non-European countries. I'm going to beg to differ with you, Mark. We're not European in any way. I'm European.
Yeah.
I have an EU passport, but Canada is not.
Commonwealth, maybe, but that's it.
We are very much aligned with our North American partners, particularly America. Would we seriously ignore that big behemoth to the south of us that buys most of the stuff that we export? Would we seriously ignore them and sever ties with them to try and be more European? Can we even, as Canadians, afford to be European? Because I don't think we can.
No, we cannot. No, just because something is severed doesn't mean you can't, put it back together. Make the deal.
Is
we
it possible?
need it.
Hold on. Is it possible that he doesn't want to make the deal? Is it possible that Carney is coming out and saying, yeah, we're negotiating with the Americans. A deal's imminent, when he knows full well there's a poison pill in there?
Yeah.
In other words, it'll be a deal that the Americans simply won't accept. Is he doing that because this is what he wants? Keep in mind, he's very connected to Europe. He himself is a European citizen. He himself is the former governor of the Bank of England. Yeah. He's got intricate ties to the European globalists. Wow. Let's hear a little bit more of what Mark Carney had to say. Again, don't call me out for calling out what's happening here. Don't be all, Scott, you're a conspiracy theorist, because that's not what's happening. You're hearing it for yourself. Prime Minister Mark Carney yesterday.
And that's what today is about. It's about building on our triple alignment of values, of interests, and of trust built over the years. And so today, this is a new era of cooperation.
Oh, new era.
Our strategic Canada-EU or EU-Canada strategic partnership for the future will build a new and deeper relationship that brings us closer together, from defense to digital, from supply chains to security. We're launching comprehensive negotiations across multiple areas of cooperation, connection, trade, security, digital, climate. And this will make us both more resilient and more prosperous. In many respects, what we're committing to, from our perspective, Canada's perspective, is an ongoing process to an ever closer partnership that will bring our people closer together.
We didn't vote on that. We didn't vote on that. There was never a vote where somebody said, would you rather Canada completely ignore the Americans to the south? We just disavow our relationship with them because we are all in on being European. Could we ever let that holy disaster, European Parliament, have any say over what goes on in Ontario or in Manitoba or in Nova Scotia or in British Columbia, and the list goes on? Would we ever allow Ursula and the EU to tell us what the hell we're going to do? Why would we do that? Why would we? It seems like this whole election was just to get Carney elected, and we're going to defend our sovereignty until Carney gets in, and then he's going to sell our sovereignty to Europe.
Yeah.
If I'm being honest, that's exactly what this sounds like he's doing. And he did it right in front of our faces when no one was paying attention, because everyone was paying attention to Iran and America and Israel. Listen to more. We all know the Prime Minister takes a lot of credit for getting rid of that consumer carbon tax. And people feel like, ooh, that was a compromise on his values because the Liberals were all in on that. They swore right down to the last second that carbon tax is necessary to save the planet and it puts more money in people's pockets than it costs them. They insisted we had to have it. And then Carney just casually ripped it up and said, bye. He needed to do that to get elected because he knew it was divisive and how unpopular it was. But he never actually got rid of the carbon tax. Is that because he had something else in mind, a newer, bigger carbon tax? Let me play this clip for you because it sounds very much like that's where this is going.
De nos systèmes de tarification de carbone. We also, in this more dangerous and divided world, must be prepared to defend our people and our values, to secure our sovereignty and protect our allies. And to these ends, we will be in The Hague tomorrow with new commitments, significant commitments to our own and our mutual defense, meeting our NATO targets, further accelerating investments in coming years, but doing so, the EU and Canada, with this new security and defense partnership, which provides for this increased cooperation across the full spectrum of security. It will help us deliver on our new requirements for capabilities more rapidly and more effectively. It will help build our industries, secure our jurisdictions. So we are very pleased to be taking this important step towards participation in SAFE as part of Rearm Readiness Europe, bringing shared expertise, joint research and innovation. You know, at its core, final word, Europe was born as a project of peace. And Canada, over the years, over the decades, has served alongside European allies in pursuit of that peace. It's that, in those circumstances, from Vimy to Juno, that the world came to know the value of our strength. But now we're working alongside the European Union to combat climate change, to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals, and to protect, amongst other things, academic and scientific freedoms. In these ways, the world knows the strength of our values. And this partnership, which is in defense and security and economics, really builds the strength, builds those strengths in both our jurisdictions and lives up to our values. So with that, thank you for the partnership. It's not over. As you say, we have dinner, and I know in Europe, dinners are long and they involve a lot of work, at least when they're in this building. Other dinners in Europe are long and involve very little work, but this one will involve a lot of work, but so be it, because we have a lot of work to do. So with that, I'll hand back for...
That is him setting it up. Now let's go to the reporter question, where he talks about Canada's new carbon alliance with Europe.
Explain how this particular partnership that you've signed today is going to get military equipment into the hands of the Canadian forces quickly, how it's going to expand Canada's defense industrial base, and how you're going to pay for it.
Yeah. So thank you very much for the question. The first thing, in terms of the challenges / opportunities that exist both for Europe and for Canada, is that we're both embarking on major investments in our defense capacities. We have some complementarities that will allow us both to move more rapidly because we have excess capacity in certain areas. For example, one of the things we need in Canada is just straight munitions. Okay, a very simple thing. Cooperation in aerospace, where there are complementarities both in European leadership, but also some Canadian leadership as well. Complementarities in areas related to, sorry to use the jargon, but the defense industrial pledge, so related defense spending that has dual use or other uses. And President von der Leyen mentioned AI and cyber, those areas which will be incredibly important for defense. So right at the point where both of our jurisdictions need to increase to combat defense threats, we pool our resources, or we can pool much of our resources. We'll be more than the sum of the parts. And as we build up those resources, we can do those in a way that's complementary and mutually reinforcing. One of the ways we can pay for this is the fact that what we will do should be more efficient for both of us, should be more cost effective for both of us. The second thing is to recognize that if we do this right, we will also be building our overall economic capacity, which will be part of what's self-reinforcing. Et puis, en français, en effet, c'est la lutte contre
industry means, and European Union.
Got to find that answer.
Package, a very significant package of sanctions. We've just released our latest sanction, develop a true partnership in matters of defense. And I'll add one other point of, I don't want to say this is comfort, but it's effectiveness with respect to Ukraine. The European Union is preparing its 18th sanction package, a very significant package of sanctions. We've just released our latest sanctions, financial sanctions against Russia.
Now let's get to the part where he mentions carbon in our new partnership with Europe. Listen to this.
We're getting late, so I'll answer quickly. The first is that, look, what options are we considering? I'll give you an open answer. We'll do what's right for Canada. We're working hard to get a deal, but we'll only accept the right deal with the United States. The right deal is possible, but it's nothing's assured. But what we're going to do, irrespective of the outcome, is we are going to build trading relationships with like-minded partners, reliable partners, partners that are aligned with our values. It begins here, and you see the ambition in this partnership, and the scope of ambition, and that's the future of trade. That's the future of trade. The future of trade is digital. The future of trade does take carbon into account. Carbon is trade, right? The future of trade.
Sorry, I want to hear that again. Did he just say carbon is trade?
Yes.
In other words, all trade should involve a price on carbon. Let me just see if I understood that.
Carbon into account. Carbon is trade, right?
Oh, Jesus, that is exactly what he said. Anna, this terrifies me. This is not what people had in mind for Canada.
No, it's not. And that's the most colorful I've ever heard him speak.
He's being very blunt about what he wants to do. He's a European guy. He wants to make Canada part of Europe. And even if we're not a direct part of Europe, he basically wants to make us a European territory. It seems like he's going to sell out our sovereignty, but not to Donald Trump. The Canadians said, don't sell us out to America. So he's just going to sell us out to Europe, is the way it seems like this is going.
Yeah.
I'm nervous. I'm afraid. I don't know what to think when I hear stuff like that, because I've been hearing rumors for many, many, many years that this was in the works, that this was always the plan, that the World Economic Forum wanted Canada and the USA, but when Trump got elected, the US was off the table for a while. We'll see after the next election. But for now, Canada was the big prize that they wanted, and they got it. Seems like it. Mark Carney said it right there. Today is the beginning. Yesterday is when he said it. Yesterday was the beginning of Canada's migration towards Europe.
Yeah. I mean, had I just tuned in without any knowledge of what I was listening to, I would have thought somebody that was a prime minister or president of a European nation, to be honest.
Doesn't it sound like it?
That's what it sounded like to me, having, but now I know the backstory. Wow. Which also makes sense now why he's been dragging his feet to get to this point and not making a deal with Donald Trump when it came to tariffs.
Trump is not going anywhere.
No.
Trump even kind of alluded to it at the G7 that we're here if they want a deal. If they don't want a deal, go ahead and join Europe. It's not going to work out for us. That is not going to work out for us. That is not in the best interest of the Canadian people. I wanted a strong, confident Canadian prime minister who wanted to build here and get our products out to market. I think that's what the vast majority of Canadians wanted. And with Mark Carney not saying one way or the other whether or not he supported pipelines, people just blind faith went with Mark Carney. Mm-hmm. Well, it doesn't seem like he wants to build pipelines. It doesn't seem like, unless they go to Europe, by the way, it doesn't seem like he's all that interested in maintaining Canada as a strong sovereign country. It seems like he wants us to basically be a feeder for Europe, an ATM where they can just come in and take our money and then take it back over to Europe. That's the way it seems like this is going. The prophecy is being fulfilled here.
You know, yeah. I was hopeful. I will say I was hopeful that, exactly to your point, that he was going to be this strong individual, you know, getting us into a better position than we've been. But this new deal, and we don't even know the exact extent. When I heard about it yesterday, I was like, that's different.
That's just what they're telling us. God only knows. God only knows what he's agreed to.
Yeah, but he's surface level. This is what it is. But also, when Mark Carney came into power, I was like, where did this guy come from?
Most people did.
I didn't even know where he came from. I got to be honest. And then he rose, you know, from the ashes to this stance. And I was hopeful. Hopefully, you know, he had strong knowledge. He wasn't Trudeau. He was going to get things done. But now we're going the complete opposite way of where I thought we were going to go. We need the U.S. I'm sorry. Am I the only person who thinks that?
We absolutely do.
We need the U.S. This is baloney. We share a border, not the water.
You can go ahead and listen back to any of those audio clips. And if you want to source them yourself to find out, is Scott Fox lying to me here? Is he manipulating me? Because I don't believe that nice old man Mark Carney would do that. Please go back and listen. You can see those speeches just about anywhere on YouTube. Review them. Think about what he's doing. He said, we can fantasize about going back to the way it was, or we can go with the New World Order.
Yeah.
I don't want to go with the New World Order. I don't like what those people have planned for the world. Their New World Order involves not us. It's a big party. We're not invited. Mm-hmm. I don't want to go down that road. In fact, if they're going to make me choose, and I didn't think even a week ago I'd be saying this, I'm choosing America. If Canada's going to go one way or the other, either Europe or America, I don't want Europe. That's coming to you from a European citizen. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I don't want it. It's not good for us. It's not how we make our country prosper. I gave Mark Carney all the runway he needed to get settled in and start implementing his domestic agenda. One Canadian economy. Let's get our products out to market. Let's start getting respected again on the world stage. Yes. I don't want respect on the world stage because they're trying to own us. And it seems exactly like Europe wants to own us. You know, they're not out there threatening us with tariffs and making big blustery speeches, but that's what they want. There's a reason Mark Carney is there, and there's a reason that Mark Carney himself found himself under very strange circumstances and at lightning speed going from zero to Prime Minister of Canada. Just like that. Any questions we asked about the election, they shut it down right away. Here we go. Here we go. Here's the Canadian MAGA asking questions about a rigged election. We should ask questions about an election if it seems rigged. That's the whole point of democracy. I'm not going to go any further down this road today. But again, listen back to it. Use your critical thinking. Use your own judgment. Listen to what Mark Carney said and ask yourself if that's what we want. Maybe you do. Maybe there's people listening right now that think it would be just great if we were basically a territory of Europe, that think it would be just great if we sold all of our natural gas and precious minerals and all that sort of stuff over to Europe at a discount. Maybe people think that that's the way to go.
Oh.
I don't think you've thought this all the way through. In my respectful opinion, I don't think that you've thought this all the way through. If you've got a good reason for why we should be more European, I'm all ears. Please tell me. But right now, if you're asking me to choose, do you want Canada? If we're going to lose our sovereignty anyway, and it seems like Carney is exactly the guy to sell it out, and it seems like yesterday was step one. He said it himself. It was just the beginning of the New World Order. Mm-hmm. I don't want to be part of the New World Order. I want peace, stability, and prosperity for the middle class. That's what I want. And you know what? If it means I got to capitulate a little bit and kiss Donald Trump's ass, I guess that's what we got to do. But I'd much rather deal with Donald Trump than Ursula over there in Europe and Emmanuel Macron and Keir Starmer and all these other jokers over there in Europe. I don't want anything to do with those people. They're all in on giving every penny we've got to Ukraine. They're all in on climate change. They believe in carbon taxes. These are not people that, in my estimation, the vast majority of middle-class Canadians want to align ourselves with. I just don't get that sense that that's what they want. Again, though, This isn't just about my opinion. It's about yours too. Weigh in. Shoot me a note. I asked you yesterday, how are you feeling after listening to Donald Trump? Now you've heard Mark Carney. How are you feeling? How do you feel about what he's doing? Are you even a little bit scared about what this guy's really up to? I was fair to him until he gave me a reason to not be, and yesterday was all the reason I needed to not be. Before we go, Anna, stocks rallied yesterday and oil prices fell after President Trump announced what appeared to be a shaky ceasefire in the Israel-Iran war. Oil prices declined on hopes that the potential threat to the global flow of crude may have abated, even after the U.S. carried out strikes on the Iranian nuclear sites. A barrel of benchmark U.S. crude dropped over 3.5% more this morning after a 7% drop yesterday. If oil's dropping rapidly, how long until we see relief at the pumps? Have you noticed, by the way, that when oil, there's even a hiccup on the prices, they jack that price way up.
Oh, yeah.
But as soon as the price of oil goes down, they're very, very slow to lower the price. And that's when they start saying things like, it's not really about the cost of oil, it's about the market conditions. And they start trying to cloud the issue.
Yeah, there's a lot of excuses as to why it's not going down in the way that we need it to go down. Because we know it's possible. How do you get down to 115 during an election? And now we're at 142. I mean, that's outrageous, especially when oil is low.
But I mean, even at that, one of the reasons that Mark Carney got elected, one of them, is because he adopted so many conservative policies. Pierre Poilievre's policies were wildly popular. It's just the electorate, for whatever reason, seemed to prefer Carney over Pierre. And that's fine. Not sour grapes on my part. Canada made a choice and whatever, we'll live with it. But a lot of things were shady there. The price of oil or the price of gas just dropping like a rock right before the election. Take some pressure off the Canadian public. Give them one last carbon rebate check right before people vote. All of these things added up. They influenced people. It's not hard to fix an election, by the way, in case you're wondering. All you have to do is have a couple of key people in strategic places, convince a few polls to put out polls to say that it's plausible that he could win. Bam. It doesn't seem suspicious when it happens. I'm not saying that's what happened, but I'm saying you should consider that that might have happened.
I got to say, when I woke up day after election, I was shocked that it wasn't Prime Minister Pierre Poilievre. I got to be honest. That's fully what I was expecting. And then for him to lose his riding, I was like, what world are we living in? How did this all happen? And then things have just gone amiss ever since. Things have just been turning in ways that I never saw coming. I've been trying to, catch my breath along the way. Gas, everything's so expensive. Like, where is this relief, honestly? And now we're not making any deals with the U.S. We're dragging our feet. There's so much to take in, and I appreciate a podcast like this that gives you an alternative way to think.
Thank you, Anna. I don't want to change anybody's mind, but I want to point out that people have been and are continuing to be manipulated. Polls are a real great way that politicians like to manipulate people. Right now, I think they kind of read the room a little bit, that there were going to be some people that were very, very, very skeptical about this trip to Europe that Mark Carney is on right now. Just the other day, they put out new polls that say the Conservatives are way down at like 30% approval and Carney's up at like 65%. That's monumental as far as approval ratings go. And the whole point of that is this. They put out those polls to make you think, well, the vast majority of people think he's doing a good job, so I must be the outlier if I think he's doing a terrible job. They're meant to try and create a herd mentality, and they're going to herd it the way they want it herded. I don't think you should necessarily buy these things. I think you should use critical thinking skills on every story that gets presented to you in mass media. And I think you should continue to listen to pods like this. I may not be right. I might be wrong, possibly, but at least you're hearing it unedited. You're hearing the exact words. You decide what you think it means. When I hear Mark Carney start talking about a new world order and Canada forming a tight alliance in all aspects with Europe, that's not it. That's not what Canadians voted for. We voted for a government. The Liberals won. That does not give them permission to basically end our relationship with America. Oof. Trump was doing to the world what he did to Iran, strength through force. He dropped those bombs on Iran and he convinced them it's not worth having this fight with us, so you're going to agree. He was trying to do the same thing on trade, not just to Canada, to every country that he put tariffs on. How do you get the tariffs off? You make a better deal. Doesn't seem like Carney's interested in a deal because now he's got his friends in Europe that are going to back him.
Yeah.
But is that what the Canadian people want? It doesn't seem that way. I can tell you, by the way, I'm going to lose listeners after this pod.
You think so?
Oh, yeah.
Really?
It happens all the time, Anna, and I'll tell you why. And I get it. We're programmed and conditioned. We have been since we were born to trust what we see on TV, to trust what we hear from these reporters that we read every day, to trust the mainstream media and the narrative from our government. We're just taught to trust it. When somebody suggests something that might be a little fishy, might be a little sideways, might be a little off the narrative, they get labeled a conspiracy theorist. And nobody wants to be labeled. Nobody wants to be labeled anything.
This is true.
People, when they hear stories like this, they instantly start thinking, some people, they instantly start thinking, oh, no, I don't want to hear about conspiracy theories. Everything's fine. I just want everything to be fine. Don't tell me about conspiracy theories. Don't tell me I'm being lied to. Just tell me everything's okay. I can tell you right now, everything is okay. Doesn't look good, especially when you add up what the conspiracy theorists, and I don't consider myself one. I treat their stories and their version of the truth just as critically as I treat it from the mainstream media. And I try and find a consensus and bring you as many angles as I can in this podcast. Hence, earlier when I pointed out, there's a strong faction of people that believe this whole thing with Iran and America was manufactured. The reason, I can only speculate about, but I wanted to give a voice to that because there are people who truly feel that way. Listen, just so you know, whether you think Carney's the second coming or you think he's scum, that is completely up to you. Us intentionally snubbing the Americans or intentionally not getting a deal done with the Americans so that we can be more reliant on Europe, that is not where this country should be going. Again, this should be about the middle class. Mark Carney should be laser focused on people making under $200,000 a year. Laser focused. I don't know why he's not. Why is he over in Europe right now when we've still got those long lines at the food banks?
Yes.
Where is the rest of the dental care program? Where is our what is that program that I was talking about last week?
Program?
Not the dental care, the school nutrition program.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Where
so
is
important.
Where is the school nutrition program? Where are all these things that people did vote for? They wanted those things domestically because we have domestic issues. Him running around trying to sign deals in Europe is not going to help. Hey, Mark, if you really want to sell off all of our rare earth and you want to sell off all of our minerals and all of our oil and all of our natural gas to Europe, you better build the goddamn pipeline. That was something Canadians did want done. Where's that at? Nothing. Parliament, not even sitting for 2.5 months.
I know.
They sat for 2 weeks in a year. And that's it. That's all we get. Apparently, we're in some emergency right now. But it's not important enough to make Parliament sit and make our government work. Think about all this, guys. Think about it. Again, I'm not trying to change your mind. I just want you to use some critical thinking and ask yourself, why is this happening? Why is the media telling me that? Why? Is it being spun? Form your own opinion, but make sure you've got all the facts. Have yourselves a great day. I will catch you right back here tomorrow with another Scott Fox After 9. Anna, thanks for your time today.
Oh my gosh, thank you.
Oh.